The news in Taylor Swift's world never ends. The Swiftyverse continues on.
Whenever Taylor announces news, it's almost a perfect storm.
Big question was, what is she announcing?
The life of a showgirl, you know, she officially announced it on the podcast.
This is my brand new album.
Why would she ever do this on a podcast? And I think it's brilliant.
She likes to drop Easter eggs, surprises on her fans.
What is the orange door? What is the orange door?
The orange outfit, the orange feathers.
Who's walking into the next era.
The Swift effect is real.
Happy Swift season.
It was an afternoon in August with salt in the air. The Showgirl hit post, sending special pictures everywhere. A buzz in your pocket, a ding in your purse. Each notification on screen showing info that was about to shake the earth.
She is a person who is thoughtful about what she wants to say. I think that encourages her audience to be thoughtful about what they want to say. And maybe it's not the same thing as what she's talking about, but that people are really taking responsibility for their own inner voice and what feels important to them, and to find a way to talk about it.
So is anyone wanting to stay up until all night and listen?
Yeah. Okay, so everyone.
Yeah. We'll split up the kind of album into sections. So like the first 3 songs, next 3 songs, there's only 12, I think she said, and there's not gonna be a bonus, which is nice for us, because last album, Tortured Poets, there was like 30 songs when she was like, oh, surprise, another album. As soon as the track list was announced, is the song Ruin the Friendship, which immediately got people's attention. So a lot of people were saying that that could be about Blake Lively, obviously, because of the title.
But I think we also need to look at the timeline of when, like Bernie said, when the album was written. Said she wrote it during the Eras Tour 2024, but then the whole gist of Blake Lively didn't really happen until this year. So we also have to kind of keep that in mind.
Right. That is really the beauty of songwriting, and being able to phrase things in a way that helps clarify a person's experience. And we can process our emotions when we can identify them. But there's always a piece of us, in psychology we call it the pre-verbal experience, where we have an emotional experience but we can't quite categorize it, and it does make it hard to metabolize for us psychologically.
Taylor Swift content performs about 5 times better than our standard, other content. So, like I said, we really are guided by analytics, and our analytics are telling us people want more of this, and then we decided to give them more. We publish about 5 Taylor Swift stories a day, minimum, or about 30 a week. So that's a lot of coverage. We are giving people everything from her music, her fashion, the business element, the sports element. Is she going on vacation? We are covering her from all aspects. It's not just Taylor herself that people are interested in. It's Taylor and then the people in her atmosphere. Ultimately, Taylor Swift gives us about 10% of our traffic. So when Taylor ended her Eras Tour, on the very last show, fans noticed a very unique kind of element that was added. So at the end of the concert, on the stage behind her, there was a random orange door. She didn't say anything about it, but she walked off the stage kind of through the door. And obviously Swifties, who know a thing or two about Easter eggs, picked up on that and were wondering, what is the orange door? What is the orange door? What does that mean? What's coming next? Is that the new era?
What is going on? The lights aren't on yet. So I was like, this door's gonna come down, the second one's gonna happen, it's gonna drop down where it was, and then it didn't. And I was like, okay, hang on a second, wait a second. This is the last night of the tour, what's going on? Where's the orange door? Because the one comes down during Karma, the song. It comes down and then explodes into like this star nebula, this like wormhole, this like transport bridge, whatever you want to call it. The fireworks display of stars being formed. There's a lot of theories, as people call it.
So she's always thinking ahead to her next era or next project. And we saw that during year 2 of the Eras Tour when she went to France. She scrambled the sets. We even saw at the end of Torture Poets her doing the Showgirl routine. And then at the end of Karma, there's this orange door that always came down. It's just part of the background, the graphics. What we didn't realize is that was the new era that was being ushered. The very final show, instead of going down through the floor platform, she walked out the back door. Taylor Swift is always 13 steps ahead. She even said on Jimmy Fallon, how soon can I plant an Easter egg? Could it be years in advance? Could it be 3 years in advance?
How do I hint at things? Like, how far is too far in advance? Can I hint at something 3 years in advance? Can I even plan things out that far? I think I'm gonna try to do it.
So she's always thinking ahead to her next era or next project.
I think Taylor's done a lot digitally to make sure that her brand stays top of mind even after the Eras tour, right? So she drops Easter eggs, she gives, even in the last concert when she walked through the orange door, it was a little bit of a hint, right? If you're a Swiftie, you're thinking, what's the significance of that orange door?
I exited through a door, an orange door to be specific, and
orange.
That actually was an Easter egg.
She always has this poetic sense to lead fans into the next era, and that's what they geek out about. That's what they love. They love discussing it. So she was always preparing for the next era, which was her life at the end of the night on this record-breaking tour. She was walking into the next era.
I kind of wanted to give a little subliminal hint to the fans that I may be leaving the Eras Tour era, but I was also entering
a new era.
A new
orange
era.
What's curious about that is if you take that logic with where she is today, is her next era her bridal era, her wedding era, her family era? And what's interesting numerology-wise, which Taylor loves numbers, her favorite number's 13, is her 13th era her happily ever after era? How does that work out? Travis Kelce's year is his 13th year with the NFL, so it's interesting how the numbers number.
It's actually funny because I've talked about the door, everybody talks about this entrance and this thing, but I feel like I've said it is this exit to this current life that she has, this like Eras tour, this re-record process, these things like this, into this next era that she's culminated for herself. I trust Taylor, but she just called it the orange door. Everywhere online knows it as the Karma door or the orange Karma door. And technically speaking, she walked through the space where the door was. Feel like this orange door is gonna come back again, or maybe make an appearance in a music video, or something's gonna happen for her to actually walk through it.
Taylor Watch. Welcome back to another episode of Taylor Watch.
Woohoo!
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
We've got a lot to talk about today, Gia.
So much.
As
so much.
always,
Yep.
as always.
She keeps feeding us.
The news in Taylor Swift's world never ends. The Swiftyverse continues on, and we reap the benefits. The 2-hour podcast that you did with Travis and Jason, just absolutely unheard of. I think something we never would have expected Taylor to do in general.
And I think people were really unexpected by like how cool and normal she was.
Taylor tactically tucking lyrics within the New Heights podcast. In a rewatch, I took 5 full page of egg notes and 2 full page of potential lyric notes, so let's break down some of them. Let's talk about, I think.
So this is my video that I made right after the podcast came out, going through the different aspects or the different things that stuck out to me. You know, I was talking about when she looked off screen, what they say, did they highlight things, how did they say things, did they make sure to like emphasize it for some reason? So those are some of the big ones. One of the big ones she references talks about how in her NYU speech, she hit a lot of Midnight's lyrics. So we didn't know that until Midnight's came out.
And I put so many lyrical Easter eggs in that speech that when the Midnight's album came out, after that, the fans were like, the whole speech was an Easter egg.
Her mentioning that in this was another like red flag. I already assumed there was gonna be lyrics in there, but I was like, ooh, her talking saying, hey, remember when I made a speech and there was lyrics in here? You might wanna pay attention to this too.
So she got an honorary degree at NYU and she made this really eloquent speech.
And as long as we are fortunate enough to be breathing, we will breathe in, breathe through, breathe deep, and breathe out.
And later on, she was like, guess what? There were lots of lyrical Easter eggs in it. And what Taylor's version, so an Easter egg basically is sort of like a secret wink to fans. The Grammys, you know, she she made a peace sign.
Telling you a secret that I've been keeping from you for the last 2 years.
And basically, she was basically insinuating that, hey, when my Tortured Poets Department album comes out, it's going to be a double record.
Revealing a secret double album of 31 songs.
The Tortured Poets Department, the motif was black and white. I mean, it was very stark, it was very introspective, and Orange is like a 180 from that, because it's you know, she has a term about, you know, my life was in screaming color, and orange is a screaming color for sure. She has a lot of motifs that she goes back to. She talks a lot about water when you look at it, whether it's tears or waves in the ocean, things like that. As her songs kind of evolve, she ends up kind of going back to the songs and kind of revisiting some of these themes in a different way from a different, older perspective. And so it really gives her a catalog a lot of cohesion.
Again, could these all just be like the eloquent vernacular of Taylor Swift? Absolutely. Could these also potentially be potential lyrics? Absolutely. So why not embrace them and highlight them and see them? The first two are like the ones I have like concrete evidence for, or able to at least link it back to the minimal information we have of TS12. But the other ones are just like, as you can see, like she's like, oh, you don't know, like that's like acting Taylor versus like, I'm just here to talk Taylor. And that's kind of those like two distinctions make me be like, a little suspicious about why you're bringing this up so often or making it a point to be known here.
Taylor, when she plants Easter eggs, she always does it when it comes to a professional sense. So I've been curious, they said it on the podcast and it was in a Travis Kelce caption, but it said keep it 100, kept it 100, keeping it 100.
Keep it
Like
100?
Do you not keep
Okay.
it 100 ever?
I'm trying to. I
feel like-
attempt to.
I could see that coming back. She also had different themes. She talked about her masters. So is there going to be something maybe on the new album about that? She talked about her family, her dad going through quintuple bypass surgery. There's a song called Eldest Daughter. Could there be some sort of tie with that? She talked about the internet and the scrutiny, shutting off her Instagram comments, how your mental thoughts are a luxury that not everybody can afford. There's a song called Canceled. So I think she plants all of these kind of Easter eggs. So when an album comes out, she's not going to do a press tour, but you can now look back on this episode and go, oh, okay, that's what she meant.
Yeah, especially in that first day when, people are first doing their listen through on the album. If there's any kind of like Easter eggs that people are curious about, anything having to do with, secret meaning in the lyrics, the search results will have a lot of different queries that we can kind of chase, and we can try to answer those questions for you.
Actually, I'm out to a few sources to see if we can find out maybe not exact lyrics, but at least like the topics of some of these songs. So we know Taylor wrote this album while she was on her Eras tour, while she was falling in love with Travis Kelce. But we have to remember that it's called The Life of a Showgirl. She was on a very grueling tour. She was falling in love publicly, and she was being annihilated by NFL fans who didn't want to see her on their screens cheering on her boyfriend at his games. So I think that, coupled with the fact that we know some of the song names already, The Fate of Ophelia, Elizabeth Taylor, I think there's going to really be some topics related to like thriving in spite of the patriarchy. So I'm really curious to see what that's going to look like.
It's not just writing the music, which she's good at, great at. It's not just about that. It's about creating a community where she feels that there's this bi-directionality, as much as there can be, right, when you're at her level. But it sounds like she wants that connection, and her fans want to feel connected in that way.
More like storytelling. I mean, she obviously is going to talk about her life, but there also could be like an element of she's telling this story of like Taylor Swift the entity, not Taylor Swift like the real Taylor Swift.
That position of Taylor Swift reporter has officially been filled. The company's hired veteran journalist Bryan West to cover the pop superstar. His beat, all things Taylor Swift.
The Taylor Swift reporter is exactly what I expected and not what I expected. It is a whirlwind. It always keeps you on your toes whenever she makes an announcement. That's when I know, okay, we're gonna have an all-nighter tonight. You do all the reporting of what's happening, and then usually you go on cable networks or on television shows to explain what's happening and put it into perspective. I found out about the job when I was in a CrossFit class. My Apple Watch was going off with just alerts, and my news dad, who's a local reporter in NBC, had said, "Your dream job just became available." And all I saw was just USA Today's hiring a Taylor Swift reporter. So during that class, I'm sweating profusely, doing burpees, and thinking, I've got to submit a video. I'm going to do 13 reasons why you should hire me.
My name is Bryan West, and here are 13 reasons why you should hire me. Number 4, I'm an award-winning journalist. I have a DuPont, a Murrow, and 2 Emmys.
13 reasons why I told USA to hire me is, 1, I'm a multimedia journalist, so I shoot photos, I shoot videos, I can write, I can do social media, I can do broadcast interviews. It went from that all the way to being sober and my journey with sobriety. On a personal level, Taylor Swift has changed my life. I relocated after living in Phoenix for 12 years to Nashville. I'm doing what I love, which is covering music. It really has been the thrill of a lifetime covering this Swift beat.
Streaming has sort of democratized everything. Social media has made it easier than ever for artists to access their fans directly. And so you don't necessarily need the middlemen to say yes or no. That might not have been possible 20, 30 years ago when you still had to go through radio, you still had to go through MTV, you still had to get the powers that be to sort of sign off on your bigger creative decisions because they controlled the means of being able to reach all of your fans and to be able to get your music out to all of your fans. Now that she can do it basically directly, she gets to call the shots and she gets to say what her pop stardom means and what it's gonna mean moving forward.
I don't know if Taylor would use a traditional form to make a huge announcement after this. And I don't know if fans would want to see it. If you get 2 hours of a lot of questions they might have been wondering, looking at the Eras Tour behind the scenes, looking at her masters, learning a little bit about her family, their relationship, dating, I think it's this mutual benefit to both her, but also to fans.
I think it's safe enough for us to assume that she is entering a new era.
Yeah, new era, and yeah, it just later on we were kind of spot on with our guesses about Orange and everything, because even though there's a lot of different album covers that she revealed, the main one is very much an orange vibe with the orange lettering and all that stuff, orange glitter. So little did we know that she was Easter egging us since 8 months ago, which is so crazy.
A 2-hour in-depth interview with her family, basically, is something I don't think we could have ever predicted.
Completely unexpected. Yeah, I think we made jokes all the time about how we thought maybe Not Gonna Lie with Kylie Kelsey. But we never expected this to happen. And yeah, just like Kelly said, like a very intimate look of their life and how they interact and how her and Jason interact. And it was a little, like, not an intrusion, but it felt like we were listening into a conversation that we shouldn't be listening in. And it just, every 10 minutes I was watching it like, I cannot believe that she's doing this. I can't believe she's sharing all of this stuff with us, because it's been, you know, such a long time since she's done even a sit-down interview. So
even a late night show.
Yeah, exactly.
The last time she was doing press on late night shows was for her Midnights tour.
Right.
And even that, it had been a long time before that.
I think this podcast gave her a chance to really dig deep into who she is and why she appreciates her relationship and how she appreciates that relationship. And I think, you know, when you're on The Tonight Show or any of the nighttime talk shows or any of the morning talk shows, you get a 20-minute slot and you get a few minutes, you know, there's a format. You get to talk about what, you know, about you, but then you talk about your thing, what's next. She waited until God knows how long in that podcast to drop it, right? And to say, this is my news.
This is my brand new album.
It's a media appearance, but it's not a big interview in Billboard magazine. It's not a sit down with MTV News or whatever the modern day equivalent is. It's a podcast, which is very 2025 in the first place. And specifically, it's the podcast run by her fiance and future brother-in-law. And she can kind of tell everything that led up to it, and she can save the actual announcement for the album itself until minute 86 or whatever. And by that point, everybody is already, you know, they're already in love with the stories that she's telling about baking sourdough bread and the sort of dynamic that she and Travis have together and she and Jason have together, which we hadn't really seen before that either. And so it makes sense for a whole bunch of reasons, and obviously it made news all around the world and in every possible media avenue you could expect. And now everybody knows that Taylor Swift has a new album coming out, so mission accomplished.
When we found out that Taylor was going to go on this podcast, we knew that the first thing everybody would be talking about was how many records it would break.
Yeah.
Numbers, records, whatever it was, she would smash through it.
Set our own records, we set podcasting records, we set a Guinness Book of World Records. That's right. Thanks to the one and only Taylor Swift for hopping on.
And it's no surprise, it crashed YouTube for the last half hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just something that I don't know if anybody anticipated that many people tuning in live. I know we did.
Yeah,
but,
right.
You know, not everyone's as smart as we are.
Yeah, and you know, for example, at Barstool, let's say like one of our biggest live shows, The Yak, they have like maybe 5,000 to 10,000 live viewers, which is a lot, but obviously compared to 1.5 million,
Taylor Swift's not on the show.
It's unbelievable. I mean, yeah, so to us, that's just like unfathomable numbers. And you know, now the podcast has 22 million views as of right now on YouTube.
I've watched the podcast 3 times in total, front to back, and then I've listened to it twice so a total of 5 times total, because it's 2 hours long. The first one was just to kind of enjoy and take quick hand, and then the second time I did like a very detailed minute by minute, this was a timestamp, what about this? Why did she say that? What about this? What about that? And then the third time I went through it and was looking at the potential lyrics. So like, what words does she say? Why are those words highlighted there? What do those mean? Could that be a lyric? Could that not be a lyric? Is that just her talking? Is that a lyric?
Because it almost has like this burnt sienna, like copper to it almost. What about that one? No, it's a little bit muted. Yeah, there's too much pink in it. Color on her eye.
When Taylor Swift wore those glitter freckles, boy, did she go viral. And it's incredible to actually see the impact that it had on companies like Phase It.
After Swift's stamp of approval, something tells me, folks, they'll never go out of style. Why? Because sales of the Phase It brand of makeup patches Taylor wore rose 2,500%. Wow.
They became a staple at the Eras Tour. I can't even tell you, I went to 5 Eras Tour shows. I saw so many sets of those glitter freckles on other Swifties. It was really cool to see everybody follow her lead and support this small female founder that Taylor had helped elevate in that way. She wore these to a Chiefs game that she attended to support Travis and the Chiefs, and they just went viral instantly. That was a way that she made one small business owner's life, or her complete, you know, her life changed overnight.
What was so crazy is that we had had the brand 2 years prior and had been building this foundation and setting this momentum. We had viral moments before, but Taylor Swift wearing the product was really the catalyst for everything that came after.
7 figures in sales within 48 hours.
In the first 48 hours, we did 3,500% increase in website traffic and in sales. From 2023 to 2024, we grew our company by 4,800%. I was scaling a multi-million-dollar company all of a sudden.
Within 24 hours, our team actually reached out to their team about creating a full face glitter glam look. They put out a social post, and it did 3 things. First one was it united our fandoms. It also allowed us to do the second pillar, which I think is the most important one, which is allowed us to shine a spotlight on female-founded brands in such a big way that we were uplifting. It shows that brands don't need to compete. Brands actually are there to help empower each other. And the third thing it did was that social post brought such positive sentiment. We had 97% positive sentiment on that post, and it brought our communities together, and you can see our communities talking to each other.
That brand has always been fun, right? And it's always been sort of sparkly and exciting. And so being able to empower young women and men to be part of the magic, I think that's great. And that's an example of a brand that's doing the right thing, sort of grabbing onto a trend and saying, how can we fit in here authentically? How can we join this momentum, this cultural moment in an authentic way? I think that's the question I hope they're asking themselves. It seems like they are, because that's what they've done.
She still is very conscious about supporting smaller brands and in particular female founders, but also making sure that she's almost always wearing something that fans can buy for themselves, you know, which makes her more relatable, which is why we love her.
She talks about wanting to surprise people.
It's like I work so hard to try to surprise fans. And they're like, I don't want to be surprised. Sometimes they really don't think they want to be surprised. They want to figure stuff out.
No, they do.
And I think that's the way she thinks about marketing. It's right, I'm gonna do this in a way that's different. If it doesn't work or people think I'm a little goofy, that's okay. It's different and it's new. And I think that, I think not only Swifties, but people appreciate that. And everyone's watching her to see what she's doing, right? I mean, everything she touches has its moment.
I think we might see some night of. She's done that in the past where she's kind of surprise drop more album artwork. I also think we need to be prepared for a music video release simultaneously. So obviously Drew and I will be all over the fashion. We've ID'd everything pretty much she's worn in the existing album artwork. So I personally am hoping for some more archival Bob Mackie looks to go with the Showgirl theme. Her makeup artist, her longtime makeup artist, Lori Turk, had confirmed, I want to say it was about a year ago, that she wears this shade from NARS called Morocco. Very rarely will her team confirm anything that she actually wears, for good reason, but obviously sales went through the roof. Then she appears on this podcast and then later gets engaged wearing what appeared to be that lipstick, and though it was never confirmed, we covered it and sales were just absolutely through the roof. We sold many hundreds of tubes of that lipstick. It is the one I am wearing today.
A new partnership with NFL star Travis Kelce announced the day after his engagement to Taylor Swift.
Does it make you want to wear American Eagle jeans now? It does. I will buy anything Travis, anything Taylor related.
I don't think the timing is coincidental on partnerships. I think it's very, calculated is kind of a bad word. I would say it's very deliberate. You take advantage of what's happening in the moment culturally, right? It's the perfect time to highlight someone like that whose reputation has soared since he's been with Taylor. And frankly, the two of them together have made quite the smash, I'll say. He has this podcast, he's talking about different things, they're talking about brands, they're not just talking about football, although there are a lot of football references in what they say, but they're broadening their appeal. And I think it was really smart of American Eagle to grab onto them. And it also feels right. I don't think that every brand should change their color to orange because it would feel inauthentic for some brands. And people would say, oh, you're just doing that. Then they feel like, well, you're not being authentic now. And that's actually counter to how Taylor would do it. Taylor would only do what's authentic to her.
The other kind of element of fashion that we should focus on is the Easter egg element. You know,
it doesn't even take a confirmation. It's, Swifties are sleuths, they're detectives, and if they suss out something she's wearing or known to wear and they want to own it.
Nobody moves the needle like Taylor Swift.
That I think is a huge piece of her doing this podcast in general, is that it's unlocked a level of, for lack of a better word, intimacy with Taylor as a person.
We haven't got in a while with her too.
No, absolutely not. What a sign for her just kind of, shaking it all off and doing what she wants to do. And it's like, she wants to go on her boyfriend's podcast, she's gonna go on her boyfriend's podcast.
And it shows like how comfortable she is with him and his family and all that stuff. And it's just so funny.
Taylor's family has been with her since day one. And I think it's a really kind of a grounding presence for her. So her family has always supported her at shows. There've been presences, but especially at the Eras Tour. I mean, I think her parents were at the vast majority of the shows. And it just really shows that they're a united front, but it also shows that, that's how she was raised. She was really raised on family values. She's close to her family.
I think what really struck me on that podcast was also her talking about her family. In juxtaposition to the Kelce family, they're very forward-facing. You see a lot of Donna, you see a lot of Ed, Jason, Kylie. You don't see as much maybe when it comes to Scott, Andrea, or Austin. And so with Taylor opening up about what it was like taking care of her father.
My dad had an interesting summer. He actually had a quintuple bypass surgery, and that's a really intense surgery.
Yeah. I thought it was really relatable and something we don't see much of. It was good to see that they're doing well, they're recovering well. And I feel like Travis has become this person that helps her feel comfortable sharing that, where she has, had an embattled relationship with the media. She's been heavily scrutinized. She's talked openly about that. I feel like in that sense, she was very safe.
Well, looking at the body language, they really like each other. There's the attraction there, so you could see the comfort in being with one another. They could show up as themselves. They could really appreciate each other. And I think that there was a sense of support, obviously. And also in terms of media and how media is working right now, it's not just getting on a super hard to get on show, right? Now it's more democratic. So the fact that Taylor chose her fiance to share really important information.
This whole thing about getting engaged has an impact on people about, can I be a serious businesswoman like Taylor is, right? She's a serious businesswoman. She knows exactly what she's doing. And have a partner and not have to feel like I'm compromising, but we're building with each other, right? That's a big, those are questions that young women and men ask themselves. And so I think she's coming out and saying, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And I think that that's an important message for a lot of people to hear.
She said, this album is about my life behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm ready for some vulnerable tracks, for some bangers.
We know that the story of Ophelia itself is pretty
not a good
dark.
one.
And that's the #1 song on the album. So.
The fact that she mentions also the fate of Ophelia. Taylor's known for kind of sprinkling literary images into her lyrics, but Ophelia especially is a really fascinating character. Obviously she's in Hamlet, and she has, the fate of Ophelia is not positive, but she was really up against the men in Hamlet and the men in her life and really kind of suffered because of that. And so, you can kind of, see parallels between, Taylor has had to deal with various men in her life, and really, Ophelia didn't necessarily come out on top, unfortunately, but maybe Taylor does. And so I'm very curious, especially as well in recent years, she's kind of dabbled in like historical fiction in her lyrics, taking real life experiences and kind of making these really lovely sort of fictional stories about them. And so I'm very curious about that one. I could see potentially something really lovely and rich about that specifically.
I think when we have universal themes, it really does kind of spark a connection across the ages, right? Someone can be ageless. And so women look back when they hear Taylor Swift's music and they identify maybe with an old piece of themselves. Or maybe she identifies an experience, an emotional experience they have not put to words yet, but just know they had.
We're gonna have
so
to
I
see.
wonder if it track 1, starts off Fate of Ophelia, how she avoided that fate, and then by track 12, she's the showgirl now.
That to me sounds like a very good prediction,
Yeah.
and I think we can put that in our hat because I think that's how it's gonna go. Sabrina Carpenter we've got on the album.
my God,
There's
I
just so
cannot
many
wait.
things to look forward to.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be a big month for us, Gia.
It's gonna be awesome.
Her relationships and the things that are important to her become part of the narrative that people want to listen to. And for her, Orange is part of it. Her date nights are part of it. Her engagement is part of it. It's all part of it, right? It's all part of letting people into her life in a way that keeps them excited and I think energized.
Well, at this point, she's the biggest pop star in the world, basically, no matter what she does. We're talking about pretty micro gradations when we're talking about her going up or her going down as a pop star. It's her, and then it's everybody else. And it's been that way since, definitely at least since 2023 with the Eras Tour, probably even before that, really. She is on a level where, she's at a level now where she snaps her fingers and the price of gas changes in Boise. Like, there's no other pop star in my lifetime that's had that kind of influence.
Album rollouts have been done in many different ways. The traditional route is a public relations person will say, hey, so-and-so is releasing a record. And so it'll, in the modern era, it'll be a press release, an email, and their social media. So it'll be, kind of an instant rollout, then it's available for pre-order. Taylor has done it all sorts of different ways. She's been at award shows announcing records. The Life of a Showgirl, she officially announced it on the podcast, but she was hinting in the days leading up to it, like, okay, there's something coming.
Well, we're looking for Taylor to sort of mark a return to her pop wouldn't say roots because it wasn't the first thing that she got famous for, but the first thing that kind of announced her as the biggest star in the world. It's going to be interesting comparing it to how an album like the Tortured Poets Department did when that album came out about a year and a half ago. That had, I think, 16 tracks on the regular edition and then another 15 tracks that debuted just a couple hours after that. So 31 tracks total on that album. The streaming totals of that album were just sky high, you know, the numbers that we basically never seen before. And this album is going to be tough for it to do that because she said very specifically, there's 12 tracks on this album. You're not getting a 13th, you're not getting a 14th.
This is 12. There's not a 13th, there's not a 4th, there's not other ones coming. This is the record I've been wanting to make for a very long time.
So it's going to be hard for her to kind of make up that ground in terms of the overall streams, having only 12 tracks versus having 16 or having 31. But if anybody can do it, it's Taylor Swift. And if the album really is such an undeniable collection of pop bangers as she's billing it as,
12 tracks.
12th
Bangers.
album.
That's a banger.
As you said, bangers. And
bangers.
Then we might see some pretty historic numbers just with those 12 tracks. And we might see one or two of those songs putting up kind of daily numbers that we've never seen before. It already set a record for the most pre-saves in Spotify history, the album did. So it's already off to a pretty good start there. I mean, it's Taylor Swift, of course it's off to a good start.
With this new album, it's a return to what some fans have been craving, which is the pop era, the bangers, the 1989 Reputation. So with her working with Max Martin and with Shellback, two Swedish producers, a lot of fans are just excited, I think, to dance and enjoy.
Her last few albums have been much more diaristic, they've been much more kind of songwriting based. They haven't necessarily had the focus on having, okay, I want to dominate radio from now until the end of next year with this one album. But now she wants hit singles again. And that seems to be the focus on this album because she's working with Max Martin and Shellback, who are her collaborators around the 1989 era. And they are two of the preeminent pop sonic architects of the last 25 years. And when you're working with those guys, it's because you want to make a big pop album. And that's been sort of the consistent theme in all of her messaging around this album is pop bangers. That's what this album is. It is 12 pop bangers. I don't need all the long track lists. I don't need all the diaristic stuff necessarily in the same way. But what I want for this album is to kind of reclaim the sort of pop supremacy that I had 10 years ago. She's not using those words, of course, but that sort of seems to be the messaging here is I can still do the big pop thing too. And so we'll see.
Taylor Swift is probably going to have 12 for 12 number ones on the Billboard as soon as this album drops. And that's one reason why I imagine she didn't do a single is because the entire project, how it sounds, will all be unveiled at the same time. But she also is somebody who surprises. Maybe she does release a single early to give you a taste. She just hasn't done that since Lover. And so I think most fans are gonna be listening to the music as it comes out at midnight. What's interesting is a lot of fans will say they've taken the day off. That's the impact. Can you imagine that? That an artist inspires people to take the day off so they can really enjoy the music.
Welcome to my Taylor loft here. This is where I do any filming that I don't use green screen for. It's also where like my live listening parties happen, where most of my lives happen as well. Part of like my brand that I always like to say is that clowning is a group project. Clowning meaning theorizing, hypothesizing, and then we look like clowns because we're usually wrong, but that's okay. Up here is every friendship bracelet over the Eras tour that I traded. So I always do like a live listen online, and then like my neighbors, coworkers, friends, we all come over the next day for like a listening party then. So I'm just excited, like, I mean, I'm just excited. Anything, everything. There's, you name it, I'm super excited for TS12. We're abundantly excited, clearly the word can tell, but thank you to Taylor as we truly wish you all too well. Your private life shown freely, this insight is truly a gift. Good luck in your 13th era, Miss Taylor Allison Swift.
The Swift effect is really that she really unites people and she really brings people together and creates kind of a community of people who all have something in common and can all really, relate to one another and really have these like wonderful experiences. But it's hard to say. I mean, the Swift effect, it's all encompassing. I mean, she is a pop culture, she's ubiquitous in pop culture. She's one of the only figures I think that everyone knows. Even someone who maybe doesn't pay attention to music knows who Taylor Swift is. And especially now, that's almost impossible. Probably the only other artist that's like that is the Beatles, And so, she is just a cultural phenomenon, but in a way that's, she's just a cultural phenomenon.
The Swift effect, I mean, she has changed the outlook of pop music. She has changed what people want from pop stars. She has changed the sound of it to a certain extent, but I think more, her effect goes through everything. It goes through every genre, and it just sort of changes how we view pop stardom and how we view pop success and what that means going forward.
Taylor Swift has made clear is that she is her own person, and she can't be bought, and she can't be told what to say, but she will say what she feels needs to be said. And I think that's an important message for people to own. You know, figure out who you are, what you want to say, and think about the impact it has. Be your own person and celebrate it.
I think the Swift effect is that Taylor has literally become ingrained in so many different aspects of the world. She is changing economies. She is, you know, making little girls suddenly have this thing to bond over with their dad at football games. She is creating music that is not only, you know, breaking records and going to #1 and all this stuff, but really kind of affecting people emotionally and speaking to them, their souls. And I think also the thing about Taylor that is just so special is the power of the fans.
It's hard to predict where Taylor Swift is going to go after this album. It's hard to predict where she's going to go on this album to a certain extent. After that, I think if this album does well, if it does, I mean, of course it's going to do well, but I think if this album does what she hopes it will in terms of reestablishing her as a top-level pop hitmaker and somebody who can produce kind of pop bangers on a level of 1989, I doubt she's going to want to dwell in that for too long. I think she'll probably move on from there and go to something new. So I would love to see her really take advantage of that and do something totally off the cuff and totally just following her muse and what she's been into as an artist and what she sees as a potential new interesting path for her to go down that isn't just reliving past eras. It would be great to know what 2027 Taylor Swift actually sounds like. And I think that she has every opportunity in the world to do that, and I hope that she has the motivation to do that, because I think it would be really, really cool.
When you guys get going and you get deep on this stuff, like, can we get some of this flavor into the blog? Like, you know, we have the live Taylor Swift blog that's running all the time. I think the more that we can get some of this color and some of this speculation, like, that's the place for it, you know? It just should be like a very fun read for the fans out there to like really find everything that they're thinking about, that they want to talk about. It should feel chatty. So I think even before, you know, before we get to October 3rd, like now, we should be doing what we can to get some of that conversation in there.
We're a 24/7 news organization, but the specific topic of Taylor Swift is also a 24/7 directive.
I mean, this could literally change tomorrow, and we will have to pivot and figure it out. But you know, we're good with that, and just remember to be on top of it. And happy Swift season. Okay,
Thanks, guys.
That's it.